Peep game. It's Miami, Florida in 2007, a few days after Thanksgiving, in the neighborhood of Palmetto Bay. This dude named Sean Taylor, his fiancée Jackie, and their baby are asleep in the master bedroom of their home when like at 1:45 they wake up to the sound of glass shattering. Sean already know what it is. He knows it's a home invasion. He grabs a machete and he tells Jackie to grab the baby and hide. He leaves the bedroom and a few seconds later Jackie hears a loud bang. She waits a minute and then she goes to see what happened. She finds Sean shot outside the master bedroom. She calls 911 to report what happened and Sean had to be rushed to the hospital with severe injuries. As soon as the word goes out, that shit spreads like wildfire. And Sean just ain't another dude from Florida. He's a big football star in the NFL. Sean Taylor was a safety for the Washington Redskins. The case shocked the hell out of NFL fans and the country. As Sean is rushed to the hospital, detectives arrive at the scene. Oh jump, they know it's bad by the amount of blood they find outside Sean's bedroom. They find broken glass where the intruder broke in through the sliding door, and there also was a shoe print on the master bedroom door. Other than that, detectives had nothing to explain what the hell went down. It was a confusing, bloody scene. Your typical whodunit. Was it personal? Was it domestic violence? Or was it a vendetta? One thing's for sure, two things for certain. It was an explosive start into an investigation that will go deep inside the glamorous world of the rich and famous, where being a celebrity can also mean being a target. Detectives head to the hospital to check on Sean and interview Jackie. Sean's condition had been bad from the moment he was shot. He was hit once in the femoral artery. The femoral artery is located top third of the thigh just below the groin. He went through a series of blood transfusions and the body can go on a shock from that. Because of that reason, doctors had him on intense supervision. They were monitoring him continuously at that point. Jackie was upset and emotionally distraught. She was still trying to process everything. She was worried about Sean, but detectives were focused on getting information like always so they could solve the case and catch the suspect. Jackie gives her point of view, which isn't much because she was hidden in the bedroom. She didn't get to see anything. She didn't know how many there were, how tall, short, fat, skinny, white, black, nothing. So this made detectives' jobs much harder because they had no description of the suspect. A lot of Sean's fam was at the hospital. His siblings, his parents, and his friends. Detectives decided to interview Sean's father, Pete Taylor. Pete Taylor was the police chief of Florida City, which is about 45 miles south of Miami. Detectives asked him if Sean had any enemies or if there was anyone who wanted to hurt Sean. He says no one he could think of. Everyone loves Sean. They asked him how their relationship was, which he replies, great. From an early age, Pete recognized Sean's gifts on the football field. His father nurtured his athletic abilities. Pete Taylor was a loving parent, a mentor, and he was even his coach. Sean's football career takes off in high school where he meets a Cuban-American chick who steals his heart, Jackie Garcia, who is the niece of actor Andy Garcia. She was a beautiful person. It was love at first sight. They both were madly in love with each other. It was a storybook romance. They were practically inseparable. Due to that, they both decided to go to the University of Miami together. Sean was an All-American safety for the University of Miami, and Jackie was also an accomplished soccer player. At the time, he was looked at as the best safety in the United States. At the age of 21, Sean is drafted by the Washington Redskins. Sean was a first-round draft pick, and he quickly became a star in the league. He was considered to be one of the best football players to ever come out of South Florida. With the signing bonus of $7.2 million, Sean quickly adopts the superstar lifestyle. And like any other superstar, he had an entourage. Sean was surrounded by people that were drawn to him because of his fame and his fortune. But as Sean starts to rise, he never forgets where he comes from, sharing his wealth with his friends and his family. In his second year with the Redskins, Sean is selected to play in the Pro Bowl. Through all Sean's success, he and Jackie remain devoted to each other and make plans to get married. To make things better, Jackie finds out she's pregnant. The birth of Sean's daughter was one of the best things to happen to him. He was maturing, but now in the peak of his career, Sean's life hangs in the balance. Sean wasn't even supposed to be in town. He was injured in the game the week before, so without telling anyone, he flew down to Miami to get a second opinion from a doctor he knew in Miami. The next day after the shooting, Sean's condition takes a disturbing turn, and Sean Taylor passes away. Sean Taylor was in the prime of his life. He was going to get married, he had a new baby daughter, and just like that, his life was taken. But if the bullet was a millimeter to the left or to the right, he would be here today. All eyes were on Miami PD to solve the case now. Detectives speak with Sean's friends and family, hoping maybe his friends and family know who might want to harm Sean. Everyone had the same thing to say. He was fine with everybody. Everybody loved Sean. But then a tip comes in from an unexpected source. Sean and Jackie's nanny claimed that the week prior to the incident, Sean and Jackie were away and she was at the house alone. She believed someone broke into the house, yet there were no signs of forced entry, but a back door was found open that she did not leave open. Someone had to have been in the house because she found a knife on Sean and Jackie's bed, but never told anyone about it. Now police were wondering, was the first break-in a trial run to the attack that ended Sean's life, and was the knife meant to be a threat? Detectives questioned Sean's father again, Pete Taylor. He asks is he sure he doesn't know anyone that had it out for Sean. There's only one person he could think of. He gives the name Malcolm, one of Sean's friends. Malcolm was living on for Sean, then Sean cut him off. Sean had a family to take care of, a wife and a brand new baby. So when he got hurt, he realized the money may not last forever, so maybe Malcolm tries to scare Sean by breaking in and leaving the knife. Detectives head to Malcolm's house to question him. Malcolm admits that it hurt that Sean was cutting him off, but he had love for Sean and he would never take his life. He claimed to have an alibi for the night in question. He was at a bar named Rusty's and he was there till closing. Detectives asked who he thought would want to hurt Sean. He gives the name of an obsessed fan, a woman they call Trouble. She would pop up at places Sean was and throw herself at him sexually, but Sean would always turn down her advances. He was very loyal to Jackie. Malcolm didn't have a real name or information where to find her, so detectives told him they would be in touch. Detectives confirmed Malcolm's alibi. He was at the bar Rusty's all night, but the bar is only 15 minutes from Sean's house, so even though his alibi checks out, it still didn't rule him out. After all the evidence that was collected so far, detectives felt that a member of Sean's entourage or an obsessed fan is responsible, and the fact that it could be anybody random, it makes that much more difficult for detectives to pinpoint who the person was. But while detectives wrestled with who the suspect was, the country mourned Sean Taylor, and the city of Miami says goodbye. Over 4,000 people attend his funeral. Back at the precinct, detectives make a discovery. They discovered that Sean Taylor had recently been arrested for an incident involving ATVs, where he was actually the victim. Detectives tracked down the attorney that prosecuted Sean to see if there was any bad blood. Sean had pulled a gun on two guys who had stolen his ATVs. He was the one prosecuted because he pulled the gun. This is where he made a mistake. He should have called the cops to handle it. The prosecutors believe the two guys were looking for a payday, but Sean wouldn't settle. Sean ends up getting community service and put on probation, and they took his gun from him, and the plaintiffs got nothing. So maybe these guys came back looking for revenge. Detectives look for the two men who took Sean to court, Keyshawn Davis and Terrell Jones. Detectives make a visit to Keyshawn Davis' residence. The mother of his child claimed that he took off 3 days ago and she hadn't seen or heard from him since. And for his sidekick Terrell Jones, she wasn't a big fan of his, but she hadn't seen him either. So detectives put out an APB on the two suspects. Plus Malcolm, Sean's friend, works with a sketch artist to draw up a sketch of the woman they call Trouble and place an APB on her as well. Then a call comes in that sends them yet in another direction. It was an anonymous tip. The person said, "I'm no snitch, but I know who killed Sean. They all live up in Fort Myers," and then they hung up. Detectives were wondering why Fort Myers was ringing a bell. It was because Sasha Taylor, Sean's sister, lived in Fort Myers. Detectives visited Sean's half-sister, Sasha. They asked her if Sean had any problems or dealings in Fort Myers area. She said no. His only connection was her. She said that sometimes her and her boyfriend and her boyfriend's friends would go to parties that Sean would throw, but that was about it. Detectives add these names to their list of suspects: Jason Mitchell, Charles Wardlow, Eric Rivera, Venger Hunt, and Timmy Brown. Now they need to find evidence that put the men in Miami the night of the murder. Cops don't know the car the suspects were driving, so they search for all unusual activity the night of the murder. If they travel between Miami and Fort Myers, cops may be able to track them through toll records. And lo and behold, there was a violation involving an SUV several minutes before Sean Taylor's death. They violated the toll coming into Miami and did it again leaving out of Miami going to Fort Myers. on a road known as Alligator Alley, which is I-75. The violation was these fools didn't pay the toll entering and leaving Miami. The SUV was a rental, and the person who rented the SUV was one of the names Sean's sister had provided detectives, Jason Mitchell. Detectives do what's called a tower dump and dig up cell phone records to help support the case. Looking at the tower closest to Sean Taylor's home, and bingo, they get a hit. Two numbers are a match, Jason Mitchell and Charles Warlow. So now these two plus 3 others are the prime suspects in the shooting. Working with local law enforcement, detectives spend days determining the whereabouts of the Fort Myers 5. Fearful of tipping them off, a decision is made to take them all down at once. Detectives were able to apprehend 4 of the 5 individuals, which included Venger Hunt, Charles Warlow, Eric Rivera, and Jason Mitchell. Each of them was separated and placed in different interview rooms. Rounding them up went smoothly, but getting them to talk was something else. All the men claimed not to remember where they were the night of Sean's murder. Eric Rivera gave a fake story that he was with his girlfriend and her mother that night, but he retracted his statement when detectives said they would verify his alibi. But eventually, one by one, they started to break down. Everyone confessed that Eric was the shooter. Detectives confront Eric with the information and he denies the allegations at first, but eventually Eric finally confesses to shooting Sean, and the others confess to helping plan and participate in the burglary. But there is still a 5th man on the loose, Timmy Brown, and he can be armed and dangerous. Timmy began to run his mouth and brag about how he avoided being spoken to by police and avoided arrest. Detectives start to hunt down Timmy Brown, the 5th and final suspect in the case. Timmy's luck runs out when he's spotted on the street. Now detectives have all 5 suspects in custody, and they're determined to find the murder weapon. Detectives learned from his statements that after they shot Sean on the way headed back to Fort Myers, Eric put the gun inside a sock and threw the gun into the Everglades and into marshy, swampy water. It took aviation divers, police, and gun dogs to attempt to locate the firearm. For weeks the search continued. The dive team had to be covered by snipers to protect them because they were surrounded by alligators. It was that dangerous of a search for the firearm. They searched numerous times, but there was no luck. Cops may not have the murder weapon, but they do confirm the weekend that occurred a week before Sean's murder was actually a test run. Jason Mitchell is the one that burglarized the house a week before the murder, and ultimately Jason is the one that went back to Fort Myers and put together the whole plan. The investigation may have gone quickly, but justice didn't follow. It took 7 years for the case to go to trial because there were so many defendants and so many lawyers involved. It ended up taking a really long time for these cases to finally be resolved. Eric Rivera is the first to go to trial in 2013, as he is the one that fired the gun that killed Sean Taylor. He had the most to lose. Eric retracts his confession and pleads not guilty, but the prosecution makes a strong case and Eric Rivera is found guilty on charges for first-degree murder, burglary with a firearm, and home invasion robbery while armed. He is sentenced to 57 years in prison. Jason Mitchell was found guilty on charges of first-degree murder, burglary with a firearm, and a home invasion robbery while armed. He was the one that orchestrated the whole break-in that led to Sean's murder. He was sentenced to life in prison. Charles Warlow was found guilty on the charges of first-degree murder, burglary with a firearm, and a home invasion robbery while armed. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison. Venger Hunt was found guilty on charges of second-degree murder and burglary. He was sentenced to 29 years in prison. And Timmy Brown was found guilty on charges of second-degree murder and burglary. He was sentenced to 18 years in prison. Sean Taylor was a generous, giving person. Sean probably would have helped these men, but their greed ended up costing Sean his life. Sean Taylor's family still lives in South Florida. His wife Jackie Garcia got remarried and is raising the daughter she and Sean had together. Sean's family will never forget him, and neither will his fans.